Hi, this is Paul Sotheby. Today I want to talk about the day I heard the tempter's voice. Wow, that was an unusual day. So let me give you a little bit of background about it. If I had listened to him and done what he had said, I'd be dead. Okay, so prefacing that, let me tell you where I was at that time. I was a young man. I don't know exact age, maybe 19, 20-ish, 21-ish, someplace in there. And I got a job as a security guard. And I had gone through some classes, and I was an armed security guard. And I was working graveyard, okay? And wow, I'm actually going to talk about this. Woo! Okay, so graveyard does not work for me. Working graveyard does not work for me. What happened is I could not get my sleep rhythm working. During the day, it was hot, and the sun shone into my window through these like white curtains. And every day, there were kids outside my window playing while I'm trying to sleep. It was just intolerable. And so I had this job for about a month. I'm going to tell you what happened. But I was living in Sunnyvale at the time, and I was working someplace else. I'm not going to say where it was. And so I was getting more and more exhausted, just exhausted out of my mind. And I would work at my graveyard shift job, and it was like torture. I would sometimes lie down on the floor, try and catch a few winks of sleep. I was alone with a loaded gun. And getting more and more fatigued. I mean, just my body is crying out for sleep, and it's just not finding it. It was like being tortured, okay? Okay. So one day, I was sitting at a desk. It's graveyard. Nobody is around. There's a sidearm. Now, this sidearm was a revolver. It had 5 bullets in it, and it could hold 6. Now, the reason it did not have 6 bullets in it, because what we did is, just in case there was a problem, a mistake, or whatever, that chamber was there in case you pulled the trigger accidentally or whatever, to prevent somebody from getting hurt, somebody from, it was to help you not make a mistake. So I'm sitting there, I am exhausted out of my mind. I'm just like, just sitting there, no thinking going on in my head, none. It's like a blank slate of nothingness, okay? Just sitting there, And I hear this little voice, not audibly, like in my spirit, in my mind, my spirit. And it says, why don't you just pull that gun out, put it to your head, and pull the trigger? I mean, look at your life. Is it really going anywhere? I mean, are you anything? I mean, look at you. And I thought about it for a second, and I thought, well, wait a second. Yes, this is like a job that is kind of like a nowhere job. I don't see a future in it. But I looked like into the future with my imagination. I said, God's got something for me. God's got something out there for me. I don't know what it is. I can't see it. But someplace out there, I think God has something. I had no real education at the time. My professional life was like nowhere. But there was like this little seed of hope inside of me that said, it's going to be okay somehow. I don't know how. Okay. Then the voice spoke to me again, in my heart, in my mind, in my spirit, wherever is able to do that. Okay. And it said, well, why don't you just pull the gun out, put it to your head and pull the trigger anyways, because it's on the empty chamber and nothing will happen. And at that point, even though I was in this exhausted state of mind, I kind of laughed and said, okay, I know who you are. I know who you are. And I'm not doing what you're telling me to do. I'm not even going to take that chance with my life. And then that little voice, now remember, I'm in an exhausted state of mind. He said to me, well, why don't you just pull the gun out, point it down the hallway, and shoot. Nothing will happen. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I can do that. So I pull the gun out. I point it down this hallway, and I pull the trigger. And I hear this deafening sound, and I said, oh my God, I just shot this gun. And I panicked. I panicked because I was afraid maybe I hurt somebody. So I go over there, there's a bullet hole, and I try and find out where the bullet went and make sure nobody got hurt. And I was just like, that was the end of my armed guard career. I won't tell you what happened after that. It's really not funny. But the reason I tell you this here, because I want you to think about something. You see, the thoughts that are in your mind, in your heart, that you ponder, that you think about, they're not always originating from you. Now, that's kind of an interesting concept, that there is a tempter out there that has access to you, that at your weakest moments in life will come to you and suggest you do something. Okay? Now, this happened to Jesus. Am I comparing myself to Jesus? Well, not exactly, no. Of course, he was the perfect Son of God, and I'm an imperfect, flawed human being. But Jesus went through 40-day fast, and at the end, he was hungry. Can you imagine being without food for 40 days? And one of the temptations of Satan was throw yourself down off of this high place, and because it says in the Bible that he will give his angels charge over you unless you dash your foot against a stone, and you'll be okay. Go ahead. It's kind of like, take your life in your own hands. God will protect you. There's a similarity there. Okay. And he resisted that temptation. And so I would say to you that whenever, look at yourself. Try and always be cognizant of where you are physically and mentally. Because the way this game works is the tempter will come to you not at your strongest moment, but at your weakest moment. And he will suggest thoughts and actions for you to do when you're at the weakest point that he sees you at. I mean, it's just not playing fair, is it? But he doesn't play fair. He wants to destroy you. And if I had listened to him, I'd be dead. Okay? I'd be dead. And if you listen to him, you might die. Okay? I mean, you might be going through something right now that is intolerable, okay? And you are thinking about, the tempter is coming to you and say, why don't you just end your life? And may I suggest to you that you don't. Please don't do that. From a Christian standpoint, from what I read through the Bible, if you go to Revelations, you read the book of Revelations, and it says in the Bible, again and again, God is talking to the 7 churches. And he says, he who overcomes, I will do this. I will do that. And it's like the theme, and it also says, he who has an ear to hear what the Spirit is saying to the 7 churches. You see, God, from my perspective, my understanding, he wants you to be an overcomer. Whatever situation you are going through, he wants you to overcome it. And that bailing out of this world through suicide is not overcoming it, whatever it is for you. Let me just tell you something. Have I ever thought about suicide? Yes. Okay. I mean, I went through some intolerable circumstances. They seemed intolerable at the time. And all the time during this, I felt like the Lord was speaking into my spirit, and he was saying, do you love me? Do you trust me? Again and again, over and over, day after day. And I'm going, God, I'm trying. It's kind of like God gave me a lot of signposts in my life, and I said, that proved to me that he existed and that he was real. But, when you go through really trying times, it's like, it's hard to understand what's going on. See, when I go through hard times, it's kind of like I go, well, why am I going through this? Is God trying to teach me something? Is God trying to get out of me something that I cannot see? Is there a blind spot in my life that God is working on? Or is the person, if this involves an individual, is God trying to show me something about this particular individual? I mean, are they wounded? Are they hurt? Are they my enemy, so to speak, because of some past hurt that they've never healed from? And I'm touching a spot, I'm touching a place in their life that brings to focus all the bitterness, the rage, the anger that they have been feeling maybe for years, and it's pinpointed and directed towards me. So how, maybe I need to learn to have compassion for that individual. Jesus said, love your enemies. Okay? Love them. Okay, Lord, how do you do that? Well, first of all, as a Christian, if you think that you won't have enemies as a Christian, it's kind of like being naive, in my opinion. Because how are you going to learn to love your enemies if you don't have any? Okay, rest assured, God will give you some enemies so that you can learn this principle of forgiveness, of praying for them, or whatever. So expect. Now try not to be a complete fool and, put your foot in your mouth and create enemies by what you say. I've done that. Like, whoops, really stepped into that one. Now I have somebody who hates me. Maybe the Lord was teaching me, how to keep my mouth shut, around certain people because they just, I said the wrong thing. It's just, I got a call right in the middle of doing this. So this is like part 2 of the same thing. I commute on a train. I was commuting on a train. And every once in a while, somebody would commit suicide, and it would affect all of us. The trains would stop. You know, it was a bad situation. And I remember, you know, one person speaking in exasperation. Why can't these people kill themselves someplace else? I mean, they're affecting thousands of people because they want to commit suicide. Can you please go commit suicide somewhere else? I mean, I was just like, uh, I'll try not to be judgmental, but that seemed, you know, a little hard-hearted. But you know, maybe this person was just frustrated. Just frustrated. I mean, this was happening a lot. You know, like maybe once a month, once every 2 months. It seemed to happen around a particular school, high school, I think it is, sometimes. And, you know, it was really sad to me. You see, from my perspective, you know, I was thinking, God, what do I do to help these people? What do I do? How can I talk to these people and encourage them not to commit suicide? What lifeline can I throw to them? You see, when you don't have a biblically based philosophy, you know, it's like if you believe that this life is all there is and you don't like this life, then committing suicide, I mean, you just go into emptiness. But if you have a biblical based perspective on suicide, you go, you know, I'm choosing to exit life and choosing not to overcome something. And there is the fear like, well, what do I say to God when I see him? Hey, man, it was just too tough. Can let me in. I know I didn't overcome, but please let me in. And you look at, you know, if you look through history, you look at Christianity through history, a lot of people have gone through some tremendous persecution, and they refused to lie or to back down on their faith, and they suffered incredible death through torture or whatever. I mean, just horrible. You know, so you out and you leave this world because it's too much for you, because whatever. And how are you going to face those kinds of people without being embarrassed, without shame? So that's kind of a background from perhaps a Christian perspective. So, but life can be excruciating. It can be excruciatingly difficult. And I've gone through that. And there was like, you know, where you wish for death. You go, God, man, just kill me. How many times have I prayed that prayer? Lord, just kill me. I mean, just let me die in my sleep. I'm not going to commit suicide. I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't want to take that chance. But life is so difficult. Just take me out. I remember walking the dogs once and looking up into heaven and saying, Lord, what are you trying to do? Kill me? The thought occurred to me, well, wait a second. Maybe he is. Maybe there are things in my life that he's trying to root out. And the only way he can root it out is by putting me under excruciating pressure. Now, what that pressure was is irrelevant, you know, because it was just pressure. Like, don't compare my pressure to whatever pressure you're going through and say, well, he didn't go through the same thing I went through. Therefore, what he's saying doesn't apply to me. Let's just say pressure, okay? You feel pressure? Okay, I feel you. I felt that too. And when I said that to God, it was just like I got this download. You know, Jesus said, you know, that as a seed falls into the ground and dies, that it has to die in order for new life to come forth. Look it up in the Gospels, what Jesus said. And I thought to myself, you know, God, something good might come out of all of this pressure I'm under. Something good. You know, I can't see it. I don't know what it is, but something good might come out of this. And I thought about the seed. Now you see, The human experience, you're going to face things like this, where the tempter, saying, just end your life. I heard somebody, she had a knife in her hand, and the tempter came to her and said, why don't you just end your life? It's just, I don't, she didn't. Good for her. But this is one of the things that you may have to face in your life. Now, some of you, you can't relate yet. Maybe you never will. Okay, but there's some of you that are in pain. Okay, and I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel for you. Please, you are a valuable human. You are a valuable human being. Don't take your life. God has something good for you on the other side of your pain. Whatever that pain is. We want you. We need you. God loves you. Please don't take your life. Okay? Please don't take your life, okay? All right. God bless you. Have a good day.